Hello and welcome to my Power BI demo contest entry. My name is Devin Knight, and as you can see my contact information on the screen right now. For my Power BI entry, what I'm going to be doing is using Power BI to plan out my next vacation. My wife and I are kind of thrill seekers. We like going to roller coasters and amusement parks that have a lot of roller coasters. So we're going to use Power BI to try and plan out which would be the next location we should go to have a great vacation, if we do like amusement parks and roller coasters so much. So to kind of set you up for what I'm going to do in this demonstration is, first of all, I'm going to use Power Query. I'm actually going to use several of the Power BI tools, but I'm going to start off with Power Query to pull in a bunch of data that I found on a web page. This data is stored in here, and it's all amusement park rides, all roller coasters that are stored in this web page. You'll notice, however, that it has 274 pages of content. So clearly I can't get all that into Power Query very easily. But I can use some Power Query in the M language to be able to parse over each one of those pages and bring in all the data. So let's take a look at briefly how I did that. Inside of Excel, you can see I've actually already brought open a completed example of what I'm going to do here. But I do want to show you how I got to this point. Inside of Power Query on the far right here, you can see that I brought in multiple roller coasters. I've actually brought in 6,559 roller coasters that I'm going to try and analyze and see where I should go. Now, out of that 6,559 roller coasters, I could only see about 50 of them per page, or about 100 of them per page. So I used Power Query in the M query language to be able to parse through each one of these roller coasters. And the way that was done was through a basic little function where we were able to pass in what page we were viewing on the web page or on the web browser. So inside of my URL, I was able to parse through and tell it I'm looking at page 1, I'm looking at page 2, and then it would bring all those results together here inside of a single Power Query result set. Okay. I also brought back amusement parks because I want to be able to not only see where all the roller coasters are, but I want to be able to see where the amusement park is located. So this is simply showing me the rides themselves, what amusement park they're at, what type of ride they are, or what type of roller coaster, whether they're steel or wood, and then the kind of design they are and whether they're operating now or not. With my amusement park data set that I have right here, I want to know where these are located. So not only do I want to know what the amusement park is, but I want to know where they're located, and that's what this amusement park data set is doing for me here. Okay. So with that amusement park data set, I've brought both of those data sets into Power Pivot. I'll show you that here now. Inside of Power Pivot, that's my second Power BI tool I'm using for this demonstration. Inside of my data set, I've brought in 3 separate tables. One of them for the amusement park, one of them for geography, and one of them for roller coasters, which you can see here. This one kind of got added in there late on accident. But I can see these 3 tables here brought in. These are exactly what I want. I can see all of the roller coasters, the amusement park, and then the geographical location for these amusement parks. So I've created this Power Pivot workbook so I can start doing analysis on the data. Now with this Power Pivot workbook created, I start creating some reports. So I'm happy with my Power Pivot workbook. I'll start creating reports, maybe reports by location, like we see here. So I want to see all the locations where my roller coasters exist. I can see over here the United States has quite a few roller coasters. In fact, if I want to dive even deeper into that, I can double click on the United States here and see all of the amusement parks that exist in the United States. And there's literally hundreds of them. There's, I think, 650 amusement parks that have roller coasters in them in the United States. I just so happen to live in Jacksonville, Florida, and there's one really close to me as well. So I have a lot of options here. There's a lot of options for me just within the United States. If I want to take a step back and say, well, I kind of want to go abroad. I want to go outside the United States. Maybe I want to go into United Kingdom. I can select United Kingdom, see all of the different amusement parks that are inside of the United Kingdom. These are, again, specific ones that have roller coasters. So very cool. I like this. I've gotten a couple reports here. This is my first report. I also have a report on coaster types. This is one that is again, using Power View. So this is our third Power BI tool. This is Power View that we're looking at. Typically, I don't use a whole lot of pie charts, but this only has 2 possible entry values here. I have either steel or wood, so it's a somewhat appropriate view for a pie chart here. But I can see inside of Power View, I'm filtering to only look at all of the coasters that are operating currently by country, which you can see very clearly. China actually has the most operating roller coasters right now. If I were to unfilter that and actually look at all roller coasters, the United States has the most by far, but as far as ones that are actually operating right now, China's in the lead here. I could also look at the different designs, the different types of roller coasters by design here, or I can filter this down and say, all right, well, I want to go to the United States, somewhere in the United States, so I can select United States, and you can see it filters everything else down inside of my other reporting options, because that's how Power View works. Power View has all of these connections inside of my Power Pivot model, and it reads those relationships in my model, and it brings through that data and represents it inside of Power View here. The last Power View report I'll show you here is one last one here. It's a scatter chart where I can select any one of the countries and I can see all of the amusement parks. For example, if I select something like Canada here, I can see all the amusement parks by Canada, and I can see this by wooden roller coasters versus steel roller coasters and see which one has the most. So if I'm a real big fan of steel roller coasters, I may want to go to Canada's Wonderland here. Okay. Finally, the last thing I'm going to show you is the Power BI site. So this is the fourth Power BI tool I'm going to show you, which is the Power BI site. With our Power BI site, what this allows us to do is actually deploy out our Power Pivot workbooks and share it with others. Right now, this Power Pivot workbook is completely inside my laptop. It's not being shared with anyone else. But if I want to share this Power BI workbook, or this Power Pivot workbook with other folks, I could come onto my Power BI site, tell it that I want to add a workbook, and load a file, point it to the directory of my file. So I'll browse to that, go to my Power BI submission, hit OK. It'll then load in my Power BI entry into my Power BI site. As you can see, it's kind of taking its time here, but it'll load that onto my Power BI site. All right, now that my Power Pivot workbook is now on my Power BI site, I could either launch it, so I could actually launch it here, and I can view my Power Pivot workbook as well as my Power View reports. So these are my Power View reports that we looked at earlier. I can see the amusement parks that we looked at earlier. Okay, so this again, I can select the country, same thing that we saw earlier. I select the country and it shows me all the amusement parks that there are in the particular country. I could select the coaster type report again and see all the different variations of this, and it stays interactive. So if I select, let's say I want to see all wooden roller coasters, it does stay interactive, so I can click and it stays interactive from the web, so I am on the web now. And I can even look at locations, and it does, the map works here as well, all through the Power BI site. So this is great. I like that I have this capability. But I really want to take it a couple steps further. I like that I can do this, but let's take it a few steps further. I want to make it so that my wife can use this. My wife is really great at asking questions about where we're planning on going. So what my plan is I want her to be able to do that. I want to give her the capability to ask my Power BI workbook questions, or my Power Pivot workbook questions, and it return back an answer. So the way I'm going to demonstrate this is through a really neat tool called Power Q&A. The way Power Q&A works, as you can see here, this is Q&A that we're looking at right now. The way Power Q&A works is all you have to do is simply ask it questions. You ask literal English questions to it, and it will return back answers. Now, what we're seeing here on my screen right now is a couple featured questions that I've already asked. You see I have one workbook in here that has presidential election results, and then you'll also see my roller coaster workbook right below. So the way Power Q&A works is all I have to do is I type in questions. So let's say I want to know which amusement park has the most roller coasters. So I can type in my question, and it'll immediately return back a result. And it actually uses, behind the scenes, some Power View here to return back the results in a graph. So I can see the results here very nicely. I could change this question, or let's say, for example, I want to know which country has the most amusement parks. Okay, so I can ask, there we go, that's a little clear. So I can ask which country has the most amusement park, and it'll return back United States has the most, and then I could even filter this even more. So if I wanted to say by wood roller coaster, so if I get real clear here and say by wooden roller coasters, or even by just wood, if I type in by wood, it'll say very clearly here, United States has the most wooden roller coasters, with 383 amusement parks that have wooden roller coasters. So really neat that you can be able to type in questions and be able to get back answers. Now, by saving that, I can go back to my Power BI site and back to Power Q&A. I'll see all of my featured questions that I've asked here in the past. I'll minimize this for a moment. I can see that I have done some images here before with which amusement park has the most roller coasters, they're right there, and which country has the most operating roller coasters right here as well. So I can very clearly, easily select any one of these featured questions, or come up to the top and ask it a new question. If I go to an existing question, I can see that China has the most operating roller coasters. Well, thank you for coming and viewing my Power BI entry. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully this can help you plan out your next vacation as well.